All right, just some advice for anybody that's taking care of anybody else's vehicle. Man, woman, spouse. Some people are mechanically inclined, some are not. But I do think that there are some basic things that if you're even basically mechanically inclined and the other person isn't, or this is the part of the task you take care of in your home, there's some basic fluid checking, stuff like that that you can do. And that's, I think, what you should be doing for your partner. This is what I'm doing for my wife. She is gone right now and left the F-150. So she is a truck girl, tough as nails, but I do the vehicle maintenance, and she does so many other things for all the family. But so I like to make sure that her vehicle is safe and taken care of and not going to have major mechanical malfunctions that is more expensive. So let's dive into this. We see a lot of fluids that are around here. A couple of these should not be here for this vehicle, but there's a good reason why. So let's dive into it. The first thing on this 2017 F-150 that you should disregard, if this is your model, it doesn't matter whether you got a Pontiac Aztek, a Dodge Durango, whatever the vehicle is, these are all basically things that need to be done and checked on the vehicle at a periodic basis, pretty frequently. But on this truck for my wife, this is absolutely unnecessary. There is no power steering reservoir. It is an electronic assist on this model, and this is not related. So on the first warning about anything, if you are not 100% sure with evidence of which fluid to put in one of these holes, we'll call them, don't do it. That can get you in a lot more trouble. So just make sure that you're getting the right fluid in the right container, reservoir, checking the right thing. But in this case, this is not necessary. But if you needed this and it was low, one of the signs sometimes that you'll hear some squealing whenever you turn the steering wheel because the power steering reservoir is low on fluid, and you may need to add some, and that may fix it, but probably you have a leak and something needs to be fixed by a mechanic. But keep up the reservoir fluid until you get that appointment done. The next thing we're going to hit is the brake fluid. Now, everything has what we call wet brakes. So there is a liquid in here, there is a piston that compresses, and that pressure of that hydraulic fluid presses your calipers together and your brake pads and makes it brake. If this is low, on most reservoirs you're going to see some kind of a max fill and a min fill. Now this one is up at the max, so it is okay. I don't have to add anything, but you want to make sure that you have the correct fluid to add into that reservoir. If it's low, well, you could have some braking problems, and that's not good. If there's something else, again, leaking, and you're losing fluid frequently, you need to get an appointment and figure out what that is. All right, another really basic thing is an air filter. I'm a firefighter, so I like to look at the fire triangle: fuel, heat, and oxygen. And then there's the tetrahedron. It's called the chemical chain reaction. But basically, we need air. We need oxygen into the combustion chamber to work. And if that gets restricted, that becomes a problem. Probably power loss, skipping, jumping, all kinds of other problems with it. So on this F-150, I have some little clips here. I've just got to release. Let's see, we got... just tilt it up. I'm just going to basically look. I know that I've just replaced this. Sometimes you're going to have to disconnect this, usually about an 8mm or something like that, to disconnect, or a flat screwdriver, and then you can just take this top part out. This can be moved out of the way, but I just replaced this one probably like 2 weeks ago, so no big deal. I'm not going to look at it. But the other one, when I took it out, it was surprisingly dirty. When I was doing the check like I'm doing right now for my wife, I was actually quite surprised at how dirty, oily, greasy it was. And I was like, oh, that really does need replaced. Oil, dirt. If you drove through a dusty area, we went through the flood here in Swannanoa, North Carolina, and for a while, almost a month afterwards, it was so dusty. We didn't get rain for almost a month after a flood. It's so ironic. But all that dust is getting sucked into the air intake, which is going into this air filter, and eventually that dust is going to clog up that filter, and it's going to restrict the air getting into the combustion chamber. So make sure your air filter is good and clean. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is absolutely critical. Everything is important, but there are so many people that absolutely avoid or just pass on the deal with the oil in the engine. And I'm going to tell you what, folks, if you're just doing some basic mechanic stuff, I mean, just checking fluids and stuff like that, get the oil changed and get the right fluid in it. That is kind of like your blood for your body, if I said that for an engine. All these other things, filters, fluids, all this other stuff we're looking at is so important, but this is the blood of the body here. So what about the oil? So here's one of the things you're going to want to know. What is the oil you're supposed to be using? There's a website called Bob the Oil Guy. If you like getting into the nitty gritty of viscosity, what does the 10 or the 30 mean, or the 5 or the 20, 5W20, what does that mean? There's more to that, but whatever this vehicle is telling you to do, you should be doing. On this F-150 and some of the Ford trucks, I'm gonna tell you one of my annoyances is to check that oil, I gotta have a step ladder. I cannot reach down over and actually grab that dipstick down there in the yellow without a ladder, which is kind of annoying. So we got the ladder. If you've got that as a vehicle, you're going to have that, but I'm going to go down there and look at that in a minute. Now, so the oil that I have up here is not the right oil. I just don't have any in stock for her vehicle or the other Explorer. But on the cap, it's usually going to tell you what the right oil is. But I also wouldn't go by that. What if it's been replaced? If you got a used vehicle or something like that, make sure your year, make, model, engine, get the information for that to make sure that that's the right oil. I have actually seen in another make and model of a vehicle, actually a Dodge Durango 2006, where the beginning of the year, it was one specification on the 5.7 engine, and the latter part of the year, it was a different specification for the oil. I'm glad I looked that up. But anyway, this one takes 5W20. I don't have it. I'm going to check it. So let me get the dipstick out. I really can't video it while I'm getting in there. I'm going to pull it out, but I'm also going to have a paper towel ready. Look, if you're picky with stuff and don't want to get dirty, wear gloves and all that, but we're not really getting into any kind of contamination type things, just checking basic fluids. So let me get the dipstick out and we'll take a look at it. All right, so as I go to extract the dipstick, I've got a paper towel. This has been sitting here for a few hours, so it's probably going to read right on the dipstick fine, but I'm still going to pull out the dipstick. I'm going to wipe it off really good with the paper towel. And these are some heavy-duty paper towels. I can't even rip these things. It's not the normal paper towel stuff. These are some special stuff that's made in Swananoa by a company. But I'm going to pull that out, and I'm going to wipe it, and then we'll take a look at it. So I haven't wiped this yet, but this is why I'm going to wipe it anyways, because I can pretty much see where it is, but it's also got still stuff on it. So I'm going to wipe it clean, stick it in very quick, and extract it. All right, so I'm getting a little bit on the air filter cover here, but you can see how that's been cleaned off. And now we can see that it is in the lower of the cross hatches. I could add some right now, but I don't have any. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up some to get ready for it, but I never want to see it get below that lower dot. And I also do not want to overfill it. That will cause some hydraulic problems on the pickup of fluids and where the pickup tube is. There's just some other complications, so do not overfill it and put it. Just try to keep it in between those lines. All right, next the automatic transmission fluid for the transmission, which moves through all the gears. Typically we look on the right side of the engine and we pull the dipstick that, wait, it's not there. This is another one of those cases, a new thing in the industry over a few years. There is a sealed case for the automatic transmission. So I have to go under there, remove a bolt, cover out, and see where the level's out and check it. So if you get the idea from a sealed transmission and I need a ladder to check the oil, you can kind of start to get the idea that dealerships and the manufacturers really, really want you to take it to them, because there's going to be a service fee to do that, to reach up there because you can't reach the oil dipstick and so on. but you can still do this. Maybe I'll do another video one day on the how to do that for this transmission, but your vehicle may very well have that on that side of the engine, and what you're going to want to do is put the parking brake on in neutral, have it running, and see where the pressure's at, and check it. Just follow the instructions for it. But if you're not comfortable with that, don't do it. About the same as the oil. Don't overfill, and you don't want it under the hatch mark. And you want the right type. All right, so one of the next things is the antifreeze and the coolant. It's not just one thing. This fluid is supposed to keep this fluid in your engine that's traveling through the engine. The combustion chambers in there, or in the pistons, are firing. They're getting hot, and they need to be cooled to a temperature, but not too much, because they need certain temperature for the combustion, the fire triangle, to be able to ignite and be proficient with it. So we've got to make sure that there is the right amount of coolant in here. We have a min and max level. It is right at the min, so I'm going to end up adding just a smidget. I think it's just a hair below, which will drive me nuts. And actually, this is my wife's vehicle, so things really need to be perfect. And I never want her to be stranded or something wrong. I want to prevent that at all possible cases. So I'm going to add just a little bit, but I need to absolutely be sure that I'm adding the right stuff for it. And there's an orange cap, and it's an orange fluid, and that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's a whole other animal to go through with coolants and colors and all that kind of stuff. Be nice if it was a little more standardized, but it matters because these things, these liquids that we put into this system, different engines have aluminum, steel, different products, and these things have components in them or chemicals that may interfere with one of those metals and cause corrosion. You just got to know. So anyway, it's important. It's not just like adding water into the system. We just added water into the system. It's going to boil over quickly because it boils at 212 degrees at sea level, and it's also going to freeze at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So we need to make sure the stuff takes these lower temperatures and it takes the higher temperatures under compression and works okay. Now, biggest safety thing, if you try to check this fluid while it's hot, like I'm going to check this right now, and I mean, it's warm only because the sun's out and it's warm here, but if you try to check this while you just pulled over at a rest area or a gas station and you think there's an overheating problem and you go to open up this cap, notice that it says things about pressure, 21 psi, all this kind of things. This system is under pressure. If you just go release this while it's hot, you are going to get a spray of hot coolant come out of that, very likely, and you may get some burns. I still heard a little pressure, but that's just because of the sun. I'm gonna go ahead and take it off. So there's no pressure now, but man, be really careful with that. I've been to vehicle fires where someone checked this fluid or started to open that up, and man, if it's hot, this stuff is going to spew out on somebody. So we got to put the right stuff in with the right amount and just research and check that for your engine. All right, something I forgot to mention, all the fluids are gone. I'm midways through, or more than midways through probably with this, but I forgot to mention this is best checked, all these fluids and stuff like that, on level ground, front to back and side to side. That's going to give you the best. If this side was higher, then your indicator here may be low while it's up high on this side. So, and same thing front to back. The engine oil, if you're on a steep hill, more of the oil is going to be to the back of the engine. So anyway, flat and straight. Next thing, the windshield wiper fluid. Now, I know that the reservoir is right here, and I'm actually pretty good. It's actually just not too far down. I'm going to add just a smidget, not very much at all. But I have heard stories where these fluids look very similar. Look at that orange color, and look at that orange color. Don't assume anything. This should not be going in that. This has some alcohols or kind of similar stuff in it, and I do not want to put that in my coolant system. Okay, but This is the 2-in-1. This is stuff I use in my F-250 sitting over to the right when I'm out snow plowing. It helps with ice control in the windshield, bug remover and all that, but the all season, the 2-in-1 de-icer down to -20, blah, blah, blah. I buy that in cases, basically. So I'm just going to keep using it so I don't dilute the stuff here that I put in. I'm just going to keep using it throughout the summer season. No big deal. And then there's all kinds of other things that you could look at on your system if you're not getting an even spray up on the hood. Top of that, that's another issue we could do in another video, because I just fixed the jets that it's above the hood. But put the right stuff in, put it in here. No big deal on that one. All right, second to the last for the most part. I think there's some other things we could look at as far as the windshield wipers. I mean, you can go get those replaced at your local hardware store. You just kind of look up the part number, put them on. You could decide what you want. And there's so many other things on the truck that you could do, or whatever vehicle it is. But this is a critical one in a way. If you don't have electricity, you're not going to start the vehicle. Things are not going to run right. So what I look for when I'm looking at my battery is each one of these posts, I'm looking for corrosion, green, yellow, kind of things around this that are going to be things that may start forming between the, I don't know why the thing is focusing back and forth, but if this has corrosion on it, then most of these are about a 10mm socket. Not a big deal. Get you a 10mm wrench, loosen that up. Actually, on this one, you need to loosen this part right here. That is going to loosen that wedge, and then I can start twisting this off. What I always keep in every vehicle is one of these. Now, this one's worn out. I'm like, really need to probably replace it because it doesn't have a lot. But this is the part for this piece that's going to scrape the stuff out of there. And then if I turn to the inside, that part is going to scrape the post. This part right here, I'm going to scrape that and get the corrosion off of it. Now, if I'm out in the field and we're on a trip and there's an issue, that can keep you from starting if you got corrosion building between there. If this was not tightened well and you put battery post protector spray on it, it can actually go down in between this connection and kind of make the problem worse. But we want to check that one. That is the negative post, and the positive post usually has a cover over it. So let's cover it up or uncover it and look, and there's no corrosion. And I just want to feel it. It's tight, and I don't have any electrical problems. But when I have electrical problems, that's one of the first things I'm going to look at and make sure that these two posts on this are good. On my F-250 or the F-350 I had, the first thing I'm going to look for is some corrosion on the terminals when I have electrical problems. But I have two batteries. I have one on the other side and I have one on this side. So I'm going to have to check both of those and the leads. And I can have other corrosion at other connection points. But let's move on to the final thing, I think, for this level of checking your significant other's or your spouse's vehicle. All right, so again, I'm trying to keep this basic for the person that's just trying to take care of the person in their house. So what I'm looking at are two tire gauges. The tires are a big part of this. And if anyone's looking, you could probably already see a problem with these tires. These tires are getting ready to be replaced. There's not much left on the tread on the outside, and there's more tread on the inside. That's a basic thing. There's a whole deal with looking at what's happening with the tire tread that can tell you what's happening with the tires, with the alignment, steering, and all those kind of things. But these need to be replaced, and that is on the Slate Tune. But man, tires are expensive right now. But here's what's going to help you save some money in the long run. If you get the tires aligned, the steering aligned, and the tires balanced, and all the maintenance done on those when they're installed, then you want to do a periodic check on the air pressure. So I've got a simple gauge, pretty cheap one, and then I've got one that's a little more, that's hooked to my air hose that has the fitting on it. So I'm just going to use a simple one for a second, and we can look at the tire pressure and see what it is. Now, I'm going to clean this vehicle today since she's gone and get the mud out, and I can see the side of the tires a little bit better. But let's go in a little bit closer and look at the tire information that we have and what we should be filling this to. All right, I'm having to turn this actually portrait, and then that'll be landscape in the video. But here's some important things that you need to know. Right there is the real information you need to know for replacing your tires. 305 50R20s. That's what you're going to look for to replace these tires. The M&S, that's going to be something simple like mud and snow, no big deal. But we're going to look at some other places, 305 50R20. And as we look through, what's the loading on these things? And as I zoom in, I can actually see some cracking in that rubber, which is another indicator I'm going to replace these babies. But I'm trying to hold this steady. If we look here, the top part is looking at max load 1,400 kilograms, blah, 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 5,086, max pressure 50 PSI. So these tires can go to 50 pounds of pressure. I'm going to check these things and see what they're at. I'll press it in, I'm going to take off the cap, save that in a good place so that I don't lose it, which is on the ground right now because I'm holding the phone. But let's see what they're at. Hold it in for a second. Looks like we're about 35, 38 PSI, somewhere in there. Bent over and had to belch a little bit. But just because it says up to 50 PSI does not mean that that's where we're going to fill them to. We got to find a balance between comfort ride, or if I'm really going to be hauling a load, I might put them up to 50 for some reason. But check the pressure for your tires. You don't have to go to the max. If you're hauling, you're probably going to go to the max. But just decide what happens with them. I want to check this one, the other one, all four corners. If one of these is different than the other by more than 3 pounds, it's going to affect the steering. One is softer than the other, front to back, left to right, so on. So they want to be equal. And now you may have the sensors, TPMS sensors that are in here, the tire pressure monitoring system, that's going to send a signal that's going to say the left front tire is too low. So sometimes those sensors go bad. So you do want at least keep something like this in the glove compartment. So if you're on a trip, you can check that and figure out, man, that's why that vibration's going on. Something's going on with my tire. If you see this uneven wear or too much wear, you need to take care of that and replace the tires. Don't take that out. We could go on to brakes. I'm actually going to be doing the brakes on this truck here soon. They should arrive Monday or Tuesday, I think. New rotors, brakes, and all that. Maybe I'll do a video on that. But anyway, if you are the person in your household, if you are the son or daughter of parents and you're taking care of their vehicle, if it's your wife that you're taking care of, whatever the situation is, do these basic things. You don't need to go to a shop for that. You can check these fluids yourself and take care of your vehicle, and hopefully it'll save you some money down the road. Be in church tomorrow for Easter services. Man, serve the people around you. That's all I can say about it. But y'all have a blessed day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.